Philosophers talk to our times. One of the things for me about philosophy, before I start a new series, which is going to be on moments of madness, ways I find my brain coursing and becoming more difficult to think with, moments I hope are in ethnography. So I guess I'm suggesting that we all are, which is going to be the new series. I didn't think A Future History worked particularly well, if truth be said. It didn't bake in my mind. So it won't be in the book. But it gives me a moment or two when I'm travelling, just to rehearse, just to go over again. For me, what is the important thing in all this, but mostly in philosophy, what it is that makes me think it matters still. You can take your distance and say nonsense or not. I don't care. But I hope it's useful or interesting or just infuriating. For me, the key moment in philosophy is always an ontological truism. Philosophy always starts with something that is self-obvious, self-evident, and renders it opaque. A philosophical work, then, turns the obvious into a system, and into something, therefore, far from obvious. I've just had Aria down here has just had an encounter with something she shouldn't. In case you wondered why I'm putting an expression of disgust. But never mind, we're going to move on. Let me give you an example. Whitehead, for instance, has a wonderful one. He's one of my favourites in all of philosophy. He says, what if the world really is as it appears to be? Everything created there, standing on an actual occasion, there in the moment, real and gone. Real and gone. What then? What does that actually mean for where we are in thought and for what we understand as reality that endures beyond the moment, that endures beyond the actual occasion and is therefore the fiction? Effectively, he turns Plato, but also Hegel, and all of philosophy, from Aristotle, firmly on its head. No, probably all of human thought, firmly on its head. Human thought that has forever derided the moment and laughed at each other in the accusation that their philosophy is just a sequence of nows. The standard philosophical move when you want to damn everyone else. And Whitehead says no. The universe composed as a sequence of nows is a fascinating proposition, and not at all as you understand it. And what's more, it's the world as we see it. He takes then something we live with every day, we're terribly used to, and turns it into a remarkable account of space and a universe fixed by actual occasions, set within a space and a time that is partially illusionary. Or, let me give you another one. I was just noticing it yesterday in a restaurant. What if, and this is one of Deleuze's moves, it's by no means his only one. One of the wonderful things about Deleuze is he has lots of moves and draws out lots of attempts to make systems. What if the truth was a ricochet of an expression? As you watch the complicated ballet in a restaurant. If it was the expressions between the waiters, between the diners, the ambience, the movement, the ricochet, the backwards and forwards, the flow that's like swimming, endlessly shifting, endlessly changing, so that your expression is never made for you, but for how it changes somebody else's mind. Your movements are not just your own alone. Movements of joy, delight, disgust, warning, threatening, guidance, but rather catch up each other, one within the other. So we interpret what we are, nothing we are. Nothing we exist in any here and now, but rather in the reflected light of how we see ourselves in each other's gaze. What if that was the truth? What if the truth then was difference, being caught up, one inside another? What then? Or you have just one more. Kant. What if reality was truth? What if all that mattered was that humans were being able to create true truths? How does that change how we have to understand the world? What do we have to sacrifice in order to have truth? And Kant, of course, is prepared to sacrifice all of ontology so that he can keep his single, simple truths that humans can learn and know and so comprehend the world. Philosophy for me, then, has never been about epistemology, never been about truth, never really, unless it's the Kantian sense, never really been about consolidation, working out what you can know. It's rather always thought experiment, but it's more experiments in being. What if you take something that appears obvious and twist it into an entire system, a shift of systems? What then? And great philosophers are capable of producing more than one such move, or they're very good at perfecting the move they make. So, for instance, to give you a contrast, Spinoza hollows out the absolute middle to the point of utter madness. No, there is no other philosopher who is able to inhabit that space as gloriously as Spinoza. Deleuze will present you, by contrast, with the system in Anti-Oedipus based around conceptions about what it was to have a body and how we actually experience our body, conceptions of expressionism, conceptions about time. What if time was really, as we understand it to be, fleeting but endlessly relived, endlessly repeating? He will present 5, 6, 7 in the course of his life, each well worked out, each nuanced, each properly thought, each ricocheting one across the other. And the point about such systems, what makes them glorious, is how they articulate the mind, how they allow you to think the world differently, to rethink it. That is why a philosopher like Schopenhauer is such an also-ran. Or for that matter, yes, Schopenhauer is such an also-ran. Because once you've got the point that he thinks emotion, and by emotion he means that nasty inner squalid world that we all kind of have, that world we don't really like thinking about and talking about, if that was the actual truth, what then? And of course what you get is a nasty Schopenhauerian world. Yes, of course you do. But it doesn't go anywhere beyond where the trap that Schopenhauer has so carefully made for us. And so while it is true philosophy and a major philosophical work, it's not a great philosophical work because it doesn't open out to anything else. It is itself and fixed alone. I've always felt for me that philosophy is only any good if it gives the mind a degree of freedom that it didn't otherwise have. By which I mean a way to rethink a situation, to reallow its truth, to reallow all the facts within it, but to stitch them in a different way. And philosophy is indexes of different ways you could restitch the same things we all probably agree on about perception and the world, the same truths. That's the power, for instance, of common notions. They allow you to rethink the same set of elements in lots of different creative ways and to try and sort them through in various strata, hierarchies, plateaus if you like. Let's follow Deleuze, why not? In which you can understand their truth differently. Which is why I feel it is so worth doing, and why, when it can all too easily feel that we are trapped in some dark valley we're not going to escape from, I think I've returned to philosophy after 20 years. Because although it's tricky, although sometimes I feel I'm pastiching myself when I'm trying to remember my theories of the middle, it's very hard to remember that long ago. You remember the crude summaries you made to yourself and never the sophisticated argument, which is why I take so long to go back to a work, because I want to do it justice. But it's why I think I'm back thinking, because as never before I feel I need degrees of freedom. I need to think about ways I could rethink the world, restitch my world, help others to rethink theirs. And for that I think philosophy is a truly unique and worthwhile tool.